Hello everybody, my name is Kia and here is the Kimo. Welcome to the very first episode of the super ugly websites here in my channel. Over the last couple of months I used to kind of publish videos and cover the topics related to new techniques of making cool effects inside the Figma. But these videos are not gonna be about the how to use the Figma or how to create some cool effect in the Figma. In this series of videos, I'm gonna select very super ugly websites, preferably from the big brands. And of course, when I'm saying super ugly, I don't really mean super ugly, but of course the website that I see the room for improvements. And then I'm gonna go through the different phases of the redesigning process and try to improve the user interface of these websites. So this video is going to be different than the other videos that you have ever watched in my channel. Then get sure to watch this video until the end and please share your opinions and feedback after you watch this video in the comment section. And of course, if you're new here, do not forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video and check out the other videos as well. Now without further ado, I'm making the intro of this video longer than this. Let's get started. Our very first super ugly website in this video is going to be for the Coca-Cola company. And for this video, I'm going to focus more on the product page of the website. To be honest, actually, this website is not that ugly, and I feel actually the user interface of this website is not that old, but of course there is a room for enhancement and improvements, and that's the purpose of this video. So no matter what, I'm gonna call it ugly. In the very first step, I'm gonna check the status quo of the product or the current state of the product, which means I'm gonna open up the product page in the current website and try to understand the information structure, the layout, the visual structure, and the feature and functionality that exists in that website. These insights are going to be the foundation of my redesigning process. I'm gonna get sure that I'm getting the positive point from the current status quo to my redesign version and try to kind of understand which kind of weakness this current website has to not take this weakness to my redesign version or try to kind of improve them. So now let's check out together how the product page in the current website is. Okay, first I have to find the Coca-Cola website inside the Google, and then I'm gonna find the product page that belongs to a specific product. And this is going to be the page that I'm going to work on. Okay, now that I found the web page that I would like to work on, I usually import these pages inside my Figma file, which give me this possibility to have access to whole design properties such as colors, typography, and the rest. And from the other side, I would like to document the current version inside my design file instead of jumping around between the browser and my Figma. To do so, I will be using the HTML to design plugin, which is of course free to use. The only thing I need to do is just give the URL of the web page that I would like to have in my design file, and then the plugin will kind of take care of the rest. I will have whole the pages inside my design file in the open layer, which means I would have access to all individual layers. That's a really amazing thing. Okay, to do a bit analysis on the web page that we have, I would like to kind of do a simple process in which I'm extracting all the features and functionalities and of course the information piece that exists in this web page and make a list of them to kind of have in mind that which kind of functionality feature I need to take with myself into the next version. The pages start with the pack shot in the left side here, and then we have the title of the product and some simple description below it. And then we have this flavor selector, which user can kind of switch between different flavors of the same product. And then the next drop down or next feature is going to be the size drop down menu that a user can decide which kind of or which size of the product he would like to purchase. And then the next functionality is a CTA for purchasing the product. In the next section of this page, we have the product details and of course the nutrition facts and table. And at the end, we have a section which kind of try to increase the engagement of the user and not let the user to kind of exit from the page, which is going to be the what's news to kind of recommend the new product to the user. And at the end, we wrap up the page with the footer, which is a pretty simple element. Now it's time to start the ideation process. Basically, I need to kind of think that how I can bring the same functionalities and features inside the redesigned version by having some improvement on the user interface elements. But before doing that, I have to define some principles for my design process. These principles are going to define the goal and expectations of this project, which means at the end of the day, what exactly we are going to achieve. So basically, they are going to guiding me through the design process. We usually define this principle by conducting some interview on the client side or conducting some research on the user side But of course, I do not have access to such insights in this project, so I have to do some improvising. The thing that I'm going to do is that I am going to collect some negative adjective that can define the current version of the product, and then I will try to collect some positive adjectives that can define the version of the product that I have in mind. So I collect these four negative adjectives that is going to kind of define the current version of the product. The design of the current version of the product is very simple and ordinary. It's a little bit boring, of course, and it's very basic, as I said before, so we don't have really complex functionality and feature in this page. And of course, from the user interface side, I feel kind of it has a really bad visual hierarchy. Everything positioned next to each other in a really linear approach, and there is, I would say, lack of enough spacing around the different elements. And these are the adjectives that kind of define the version that I have in mind. I would like to have a design which is engage user with some animations, with some kind of color palette that grab the attention more than what we have at this very moment. And of course, I would like to keep the minimalism of the design, and I would like to have a bit deeper design, which means we do not give all the information on the surface of the page to the user. We kind of take the user through a journey in which the user gets all the information. So I'm going to follow this principle. I would like to have a design which is engaging, which is a bit deeper, and of course is minimal. So now finally it's time to the ideations. In this step, I'm not gonna use any specific methodology for the ideation process. I'm just going to pick up my pen and a paper and start to do sketches and try to visualize the ideas that I have in mind.
Here we go.
So it just took me around 30 minutes to come up with these sketches. My idea is focusing on having a full screen sections for every different functionality that we have, which means when the user starts to scroll, he will see some sections that are covering the whole viewport, and in each section we would have some animations, and the main focus of my idea would be on the pack shot. In my ideas, I would like to kind of play a bit around with this pack shot and have a 3D model instead of the 2D image, which I can animate when the user scroll deeper in the page. So as you can see in the first section, the pack shot will stay in the middle, and then we will have some headline, which is going to be the product title, and some description and the CTA for purchasing. And then when the user starts scrolling, 3D model of the product is going to have some transition animation, rotating and moving to the left side. And then we will have the product details in the cards positioning right. And then when the user scroll more, we have some transition animation using this 3D model of the product, which they are going to flying up. And one of these cans are going to stay in the right side, and then we will have more information on the left side. So basically, I'm gonna add a bit more engagement using the animations in the background of my web page. Now it's time to finally make our hands a bit dirty and start to work on designing the user interface. I'm gonna start this process by making my foundation. The foundation is basically every asset, properties, and styles that I'm gonna use to create the user interface elements inside my web page, including the typography, colors, icon pack, and of course the logos and images that I'm going to use in my design. So for the colors, the work is very simple. I'm just going to use the color picker to pick the colors that we have in the current page that I already imported into my Figma file. So I'm just gonna use the color picker to select the colors that I have in the design and then add them to my style list. Here I added a brand red as a primary color, and then 3 different variants for the gray color and 2 variants for the text. These are the colors that I'm going to use in every element that I have. And then I'm going to define the typography. For typography, I'm just going to select what exactly is going to be my font family. And here, as you can see, I use the Inter font family from my project. After I decide which font family I would like to have in my design, I'm going to use this scale plugin with AAA to kind of do the scaling on my font family and decide the sizing and line height. This makes my job much easier than before, because I used to define every single styling by my own, but right now this scale plugin does everything automatically, which works pretty well. The only thing that I need to do is just write down the text and then select the font family I would like to apply on it. Of course, open up the plugin and then decide which type of scaling I would like to apply, and then just click on the scale button or generate. And then I'm gonna use another useful plugin, which the name is Styler, to save all the styles inside my style list. The only thing you need to do is just select all the text layers and then click on the plugin and say generate the styles. And then you will have access to whole stylings inside your style list. Now that we have prepared the foundation of my design, it's time to start to work on the user interface itself. This process actually took me around 1 hour more or less. As you can see, I just focused on having very minimal design, a lot negative space around my main user interface element. And as you can see, the layout is ready and it's very simple. Of course, we can dive more into the detail, make more complex layout. But of course, I don't want to spend so much time in this video to just prepare or come up with the perfect user interface. So now let's focus on the animation that I would like to have in the background of the page. So to create this animation, I need to have a 3D model of the product can or the Coca-Cola can. I usually do the 3D modeling myself inside the Blender, but to keep this video a bit shorter, I'm gonna search for the 3D model of the can of Coca-Cola inside the Google. As you can see here in the search result list, so I'm gonna select the very first item in the result list of my Google or my search, which is taking me to the TurboSquid web page. And in this page, I'm gonna find the 3D model that can serve my purpose. I'm gonna select this one, which has been made by Mega Kosan. So in this step, I'm gonna download the object format of the 3D model and the rest of the texture materials and images. I open up the Blender and make a new file and import the 3D model inside it. And as you can see, the 3D model looks good, but there is no texture yet. So I'm going to the shading panel and make a new material for my object. And then I'm gonna use the image texture node in order to import the different texture material that I have inside my Blender file, and of course connect it to a specific node of the material that I have made. After all this process, the model that I have is looking good and it's ready for the next step. I'm gonna work a bit on the lighting and make a render to see if the lighting and texture is working well. So of course I'm not a 3D artist and I'm very happy with the result that I have made here. Now in the next step, I'm gonna make the animation using the Blender. So for making the animation, I'm going to open the animation panel, and as you can see here, I have this timeline down there. The only thing I need to do is that I need to select the object that I would like to animate and then create the keyframe for each specific properties that I would like to animate here in the properties panel. I will start from the very first frame and add the keyframe there. And then I'm gonna go to the next frame and then apply the changes on my 3D model and then add the keyframe to the properties that I changed. It can be rotation, it can be scale, or it can be anything else that I can animate inside the Blender. And now when I click on the play button here in the timeline, you can see that the animation is working. So now the animation is ready and I would like to render my animation from the Blender. I would like to have a transparent background, which means later on I can add more element behind my video. To do so, the first thing that I need to do is to go to the properties panel, and here from the render properties, I go to the film tab and then check on this transparent option here. I'm going to the render properties or render setting, and of course the frame that I would like to render. Here, as you can see, I render from frame 1 to frame 90. And the file format for me in this case is going to be the PNG, and no compression, and the color depth I would like to use the high quality. Now it's time to render the animation by clicking on the render the animation, of course. The result of the rendering from the Blender is going to be a bunch of PNG images with the transparent background. The next step, I'm gonna open up the After Effects and import all these images and then try to do some color correction and complete my animation. So when I open the After Effects, I can double click here in the project panel, and then from the window that is open, I need to only select one of the images that I rendered before, and then here check on the PNG sequence and click on the import. With this approach, I import whole PNGs in form of a simple layer. So I have this feeling that the video doesn't look so good. The colors are not so bright and they are not really eye-catching. I'm gonna add two effects to my video layer. One of them is the brightness and contrast. I'm gonna play a bit around with the properties and the values there to come up with a bit more brighter and higher contrast in my scene. And then I'm going to play with the level as well to kind of make the dark part a bit darker and the brightness a bit more bright to again create more eye-catching effect. Now I feel kind of the video looks better and the colors are brighter and sharper. So it's time to finalize the animation itself. I would like to have a red background in the transition scenes when the cans are flying up. So I add this red layer behind the cans. I would like to add a text behind the can right before the red background comes in. So I play around with this text a bit and animate it, and I guess beside these 2 points, I do not want to really continue to make this animation more complex. So it's time to do the rendering. So the animation is ready, the layout and the user interface elements are also ready, so it's time to do the prototyping. We all know that it's not possible to make such a complex kind of prototype inside the Figma. We cannot use a scrolling to trigger an event inside the Figma, so we have to fake it. I'm gonna render the video that I have in 3 different specific parts. Each part of the video is going to be contained of the animation that is going to be played whenever the user scrolls the page and enter to the specific section in the page. Then I'm gonna import all the videos that I have right now inside the Figma file and I select all of them and convert them to the component set. In this way, I can just switch between different videos by just changing the variance of the component. And then I'm gonna add the video component into my layout. I'm gonna apply the absolute positioning for this video kind of component and fix its position on top of the page, which means it's gonna always be inside the viewport, no matter how much the user scrolls. Now I'm gonna duplicate the layout that I have, including the video, 3 times. In the first layout, I'm gonna play the first video. I'm gonna set the variant of the video component to the first one. And in the second layout, I'm gonna set the variant of the video component to second video. And then I'm gonna use the prototyping tool and then connect the second section of the first layout to the second layout, and then use the mouse enter as a triggering for this transition or for this prototyping. This means whenever the user mouse enter to the second section, the user will navigate to the second layout, which second video will be played, and then when the user continue to scroll and the mouse enter to the third section, the third video will be played. And because the video has a fixed position, so it gives the user this feeling that the user is scrolling further, and by scrolling the animation is playing. So we kind of fake this process. This process is really tricky inside of Figma. You need to really take care of the timing, the delay between the transition. Of course, you need to also think about how would be the process when the users start to scroll up. I made a lot of prototypes for different projects in this way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's like a headache when you start to kind of think about the timing and everything else. And that's why I decided to go with another approach here and using the different tools that have more features that can help us to make this scroll effect. Let's see how we can make this happen in a better way. For the next prototype, I'm gonna use Dora as a main tool of prototyping. Dora is a no-code website design tool that has been out there for a while, and it's really famous for making possible to bring the 3D world inside your website. This tool also gives this possibility to you to use more complex triggers for your prototype, like the scrolling. So you can define what will happen to your page when the user scroll down or scroll up based on the depth of the scrolling. But before I get into the Dora, I have to render my videos once more, this time in the PNG sequence again from the After Effects. I'm gonna import these sequences again inside the Dora and then connect it to the depths of scrolling. And that's when the magic happens. Now I'm gonna open up the Dora.run. Now I would like to bring the design from Figma to here. I don't want to redesign everything from scratch. I'm gonna use the plugin that make it possible that you duplicate everything you have in a Figma here in the Dora. Using this plugin is very simple. Select the frame that I would like to take it to Dora, and then I duplicate everything and come back to the Dora. I use the shortcut key Control V to duplicate and copy paste everything from Figma here. It will take all the properties and everything that we did inside the Figma here in the Dora, so our job would be much easier and it will save a lot of time for us. So after reorganizing the page, and I use the constraint to get sure that the elements are going to position in the right place if the size of the screen changed, it's time to import the animation that we made inside the Dora. I have to just make an image layer, then from the properties panel here in the asset tab, I need to select a source and then select all of them and import. It will take a couple of seconds to import whole PNGs in the sequence way. Now the whole animation is imported inside the Dora, and as you can see, I can change the frames by taking this handle in the properties panel to the left and right. One of the very cool features of the Dora is that we have a timeline in which we can add a keyframe of the specific properties for all elements inside our design and then animate those properties. So I'm gonna select the video layer that we imported inside the Dora, and then from the timeline here, I'm gonna select the very first frame that we have, or the 0 frame. Now I click on this icon here, which is going to make a new keyframe. Then I'm gonna take this handle here from the first frame and take it to the end until the viewport kind of position the last section of my web page. Then I will change the current frame from here, properties panel, to the last one. Now when I play the timeline, you can see that the animation is playing from the first frame till the end based on the scrolling depths. Of course, beside the current frame properties that we add a keyframe to it, we have to change the position of the video layer based on the position of the viewport. This needs also another keyframe that I added already. And then I play around with the other elements and add the animations like the fade in, fade out, or some simple micro animations. And this is the result of working on my prototype inside the Dora for less than half an hour. I started from beginning by doing a bit discovery on what is the current version, and then I started the ideation process, sketching, and then come up with the ideas, and then I designed the user interface. I tried to kind of make the animations for my background, and at the end I used the Figma and Dora with the two different methods to create the prototypes. It was a really interesting and fun process for me. I also learned a lot, and I would like to share these learnings with you as well. The first thing that I learned is that it's better not to stick with specific tools. Like for example, in my case, I wanted to do the prototyping inside of Figma, which I knew it wasn't going to work very well. Again, I would like to mention that I did this method to create complex prototype in a real project as well, but it's always a pain. So it's better to be open for the new tools. Try to do the research and then find out which tools are the best for your project. And based on the result that I got at the end from the Dora, I realized that the animation that I'm going to use should have a high frame per second. So it should be more smoother, but the logic is the same, the method is the same. We know how to do it now for more complex animations. At the end, I realized that in the Dora, we do not have this possibility to kind of decide freely which size of the frame we would like to have. Then it's better if you want to use Dora, we design in a proper size in the Figma, which might make our job much faster and easier when we transfer it inside the Dora. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if it was so, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please let me know which section of this video you would like to kind of learn and know more in the detail. Then I can make extra videos, for example, about how to use the Dora, how to do the prototyping the Dora, and whatsoever. So please just let me know what do you think about it inside the comment section. Let's learn together and see you in the next video.